trust. That's an amplification to another dimension of belief. Trust is reliance. Rely on God. Let not your hearts be troubled. Rely on what is, what will always be. What up, party people? We back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic. Today's episode is on the contrast between belief and trust. Believing and trusting. Christ is often quoted, the original Greek is often quoted and translated into English as belief, for a word that can just as easily be translated as trust. And I want to talk about the distinction, the power and the distinction between the two. Why trust in our spiritual development is so much more powerful than belief. One of the main reasons that Eastern traditions are seen more as philosophies than religions is because they're not built on a belief system. You don't need to believe in this set of gods like a Greek polytheistic religion. You don't need to believe in a single God. You don't need to believe in a creed. You don't need to believe in certain versions of a story, certain commandments. There are no shoulds and should nots in Advaita Vedanta. There are no thou shalts, thou shalt nots. There is no belief system. It's a set of principles, as if you were to come up with a set of principles and say, hey, this is my 25 principles that lead to a great life. Someone wouldn't read those and say, hey, you're starting a religion. It would just be you and one of the many people that blog about, hey, here are the rules for a great life that I've found value and that you might find value in. And that's what this philosophy does and says. Here are some principles for living. Another word for Vedanta is Sanatana Dharma, which means eternal principles. Very different than a belief system that oftentimes has dogmatic aspects to it, to where whether you belong in the in-group or you're part of the out-group depends on whether you string a certain words together, whether you believe certain viewpoint, say certain things, proclaim certain things. And if you proclaim different things, that signifies you believe different things and you're kicked out of the group. Sometimes killed. The scholar that translated the Bible from Latin into English, I believe he's a Cambridge scholar that translated it, was burned at the stake for doing that. Burned at the stake. Philosophies don't have that. In fact, this philosophy, Swami will say it often in the ashram, take it or leave it. If you don't get this concept, if there's no value in this principle, then just leave it on the shelf. It might have value for you later, but it's total buffet. You can take parts and leave the rest, which is, as I've noted before, the opposite of growing up Roman Catholic, where it was a criticism if you're a buffet Catholic. You can't just take and leave things. You got to take it all. Burned at the stake. Still thinking about that for translating into English. Yeah. There are not only no thou shalts and thou shalt nots, but there are no additional rules by humans within a philosophical tradition of what you can and can't do. It is, there certainly was no commandment that you can't translate it to English. It was a human hierarchical organizational structure that came up with a whole lot of rules, what you can and can't do. One of the things that also distinguishes Eastern and Western traditions, and also distinguishes belief from trust, is belief is a proclamation of the external. I believe that this will happen in the future, outside of myself, outside of right now. I believe that there is someone behind that door. I believe there's something under my bed. I believe the sky is blue. a proclamation of the external. Trust, on the other hand, is a reliance. Belief is a proclamation, and it might not even be that relevant to your daily life. I believe Mars is further than the moon. A proclamation of the external that is irrelevant to my daily life. Trust, however, is a reliance, an inner reliance on something, and that might be a reliance on something else that's outside of ourselves, doing a trust fall. But it is a decision, an inner choice of reliance that is very relevant to our daily lives. Very relevant to the next 30 seconds if you're going to do a trust fall, whether you trust those people are going to catch you or not. It is an inner choice of reliance. Christ in the Gospel of John, which is often translated into English as, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me," could and should be, in my opinion, translated much more powerfully. The same words in Greek can be translated as trust. Let not your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. Trust. That's an amplification to another dimension of belief. Trust is reliance. Rely on God. Let not your hearts be troubled. Rely on what is, what will always be. When Christ says, trust in me, a capital M, me, just like when Krishna says, trust in me. That capital M, me, that is spoken from the divine, spoken from the Godhood of Christ, or any enlightened sage. The Buddha saying, follow me. He's not saying, follow this human figure. Spoken from a non-dual realization. And it comes down to interpretation. There are many people that interpret the Gita in a dualistic way. I think Krishna is a God up in the sky, just like many and most conventional Christians. I think Christ is really about the 5'4" figure that now is transcended up into the sky, watching over everything. But the Christian mystics, people like within the tradition of Hesychism and the Greek Orthodox Church, view it as a non-dualistic perspective, spoken from the perspective of God. Trust in God, trust also in me. That is the divine speaking. That is God speaking. You can trust in the unmanifest. That might be directionally in your mind up in the sky or beyond this, or you can trust, as Christ is saying, the person right before you. But in my opinion, it's so much more powerful. And the choice between translating a belief, a proclamation, the external, and just as easily, this is not tweaking or bending of the words to get to trust. It can just as easily be translated as trust. Trust is so much more valuable than belief. You trust in your car. You might believe your friend when they tell you a story about what they did on Friday night. But you trust in that plane that's going to get you from Los Angeles to New York. You trust in your family. You trust in the support of your house that can withstand a storm or heavy winds. Trust is a reliance. It goes beyond just mere belief. And it is an inner choice rather than an external proclamation. An inner choice to trust in the divine. The ultimate trust fall. the cosmic trust fall, the trust fall that you can fall into for the rest of your life, trusting and reinforcing that trust over and over and over again. It's not just something that we can do. It's actually what this philosophy calls us to do. It's to let go. Let go of this constant pursuit of our selfishness, of accumulating more and more and more. Because at the heart of the matter, selfishness is accumulation. Selflessness is letting go. The trust fall of all trust falls. A surrender to the higher, not knowing how it's going to work out. And that interaction with a friend or a coworker in 30 minutes, all the way to a surrender and not knowing how it's going to work out, by letting go of all of our designs and plans and ambitions, selfish ambitions we have for our life. Letting go, surrendering to usefulness to yourself, to your household, to your community. Not knowing where it's going to go, but trusting you're going to be caught. Trusting in the self, in the divine. Trusting in the supreme and not clinging to ourselves and our plans. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.